What's happening, y'all? Man, this is King Guru coming in for chapter 2 of the Devils and Demons prequel. Let me see if I got something to say about this project. I gotta tell y'all a little history of it. Originally, Devils and Demons was called Underworldzilla. Underworldzilla was an urban novel based on real life. Not only my experiences, but the experiences of a lot of homies and a lot of niggas that I done been around during my travels from California to Tennessee to Florida and the islands. So I was able to mix everything up in a way where I could give you real shit, but can't nobody really catch a case. You know what I'm saying? Another thing what I want y'all to know is I'm recording from the penitentiary. It ain't no secret. So you guys are going to be hearing things in the background. People might come to the door. You might hear the CO over the loudspeaker. Marcelli over here snoring, all kind of shit. But just bear with me because I'm giving it to you authentic and real. Everything else, I just got to say, I hope you enjoy the journey. And I'm going to try to give you every single chapter of this whole series. It's a 4-book series plus the prequel. All right, stay tuned. Chapter 2, Oak Park Mark. Mark Sanders was a gangland prodigy. Not only was he also from Oak Park, he actually helped mold the foundation in which made it a Damu neighborhood. He was fresh out of prison on a mission to reestablish himself as a factor within the city's underworld. MS was a heavyweight who stood 6 feet 4 inches. Even if he hadn't been as big as he was, his sociopathic character would have kept the hounds at bay, which was actually a good thing where he grew up at. Although MS was known for getting money, he still lived with his grandmother on 12th Avenue behind Oak Park Market. His granny raised him his whole life, so whenever he came home from doing the time, he always went back to live with her. Years later, he would inherit the home along with several others. Oak Park Mark would have been classified as a serial killer if the feds ever got a whiff of his confirmed kills. His whole family was from the P. The park was all he knew. As a young teen, he ran with the older crowd, not only because of his size, but also since he came from a large family. Yet as he grew into a man he was destined to become, he picked up the traits of a teacher. That was part of the reason his inner circle usually consisted of younger demons. On this particular afternoon, the vibe was all business. His living room was being used as a think tank where he was brainstorming with 2 of his partners. Insane B and Joe Blood both banged 12th Avenue, but that didn't matter on most days. Oak Park was Oak Park. Circles within circles were constantly created to protect one from another. Mark sat down on the lazy boy next to the coffee table and leaned in to address his dogs. Letty said her manager is out of town for the next week. He'll be gone, but what? Joe Blood asked. His eyes were bloodshot from the weed he was passing around the table. She said her manager's wife was running things, Miss Brown, and we all know that bitch and how she is. She's a hawk, Insane B interjected. She might be, Mark continued, but none of that shit matters when this legion of killers pointing guns in her face. I'm sure we could count on her to do as she's told, feel me? Yeah, damn right, Joe Blood agreed. But Blood, why it gotta be a Sunday night? Wouldn't there be more money in that bitch after it closes on Friday or Saturday? Mark took a long look at his homie. Joe Blood was a mature 17-year-old with heart, but he still had a lot to learn. So he told him, pizza places hold on to all their money until they can deposit it all into the bank. Since most banks close early on Saturdays, restaurants and bars and shit like that be holding on to their bread all weekend. They usually take all that shit into the bank on Monday mornings. So Sundays, that's the best night to hit shit, cuz they holding all the bread, Joe Blood said. On the B, Mark replied. Then right before he could say anything else, there was a knock at the door. And he said, that should be Blood in them right there. Insane, get the door. Towton wasn't trying to hide the fact that he was standing there watching Jomata walk away. She didn't sway away with her extra switch in her hips like most females would have when they knew they were being watched. Jomata pushed off like she had somewhere to be. In his eyes, she was killing the game. She held herself like one of the homegirls who was sexy as fuck, yet demanded their respect, and he liked that. Blood, Kenyatta yelled from the car, we gotta go. Gangsta snapped back to business. He went back to the Buick and pulled away from the curb. Before their lunches were interrupted, the trio were on a set schedule. It was time to get back on course. Towton bent a few corners until he hit 2nd Avenue. They were heading to their grandmother's house. The green and white house on the Deuce was the most secure entity in all three of the teens' lives. It was a place where they could always count on having a comfortable bed and a warm plate of food waiting for them. It was also a dependable spot to stash their felonies at. It didn't matter how long they were gone. If any of them ever left anything at their granny's house, they could count on it being where they left it when they came back to get it. When they got there, Town told Kenya to go get the duffel bag that was stashed in the shed behind her house. After he left, he looked at Tarashi through the rearview mirror. It wasn't like Rashi was sulking, but it was still obvious he was upset about not being included in their upcoming just. So he told him, Rashi. Yeah, Rashi replied. Man, I know you feeling some type of way about what's going on, homie. I get it, but you really shouldn't even worry about it. Everybody already talked about it and niggas gonna break bread with you regardless. And on some G shit, what's more important is the fact that you're able to sit back and watch everything play out from the cuts. You're really getting laced up on some real game, bro. You might not realize it now, but this shit you'll be able to use in the future. There's gonna come a time when you're gonna be expected to drive the car yourself, man. And experiences like these are gonna have you laced up super tight. But I could drive the car now, Tarashi said. I bet you could, but you still got more to soak up. And either way, there's always the next time. Trust that. When Kenyatta came back to the car, he was carrying a large green duffel bag. Towton pressed the trunk's release button and the bag was deposited in it. After that, they went on their way. They slithered through side streets trying to dodge the police. The pigs that patrolled the P were aggressive. Racial profiling was the norm. It was part of their protocol, part of life in the ghetto. It didn't take long for them to pull up to the house they had been to hundreds of times throughout their lives. After taking the duffel bag out the trunk, they all went up to the front door and waited for Towton to knock. As soon as the door was answered, Towton was greeted with a hearty gangster's impress. What's bracking blood? Insane B explained. Come on in, man. We've been waiting on y'all. Mark embraced his best friend Towton, and when Towton was 5'6", he was way shorter than his dog, but just as dangerous. They all shared a common bond, which was their cachet of park experiences. It was the soil they were all enriched from, a dirty soil that couldn't be duplicated purposely. It didn't take them long to crowd around the coffee table where Kenyatta was unceremoniously emptying the duffel bag. Damn, gangster, Mark commented after picking up an old Tech 9. I can't believe you still got this bitch. Yup, it was tucked the whole time we was down, homie. The others each grabbed different guns. There were 6 firearms in all. A street sweeper, different handguns, a MAC-10, and a Glock. Y'all don't even know how dirty these guns is, Mark bragged. That 45 been passed down at least 2 generations, huh, gangster? On Bloods, Towton affirmed. It's another reason why we can't get caught hitting this pizza place. So what's bracking? What's the plan, y'all?